thank you, Bindaji, for being extremely clear on the points you're trying to make to disapprise us of our prior ideas of what we're even involved with here with Advaita, and try to show us something that is very real for us in our lives potentially. So, Hari Om, and we look forward to the class.
Thank you, Atmisha. Thank you, Prasad and Prakash. Welcome all to yet another session on the Taittareeya Upanishad. This is the 44th class, and we'll continue from the last Wednesday, that is Wednesday's discussion, which I have kept half done and half undone. So we'll not be progressing in the what you call the Bhashya much, but we need to revisit part of what we discussed on Wednesday for clarity session. So let me do the normal invocations and Shanti Mantra. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrabhyo Vamsharshibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutravarshikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murtibeda Vivagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha. Shanti Mantram for the second chapter is Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The last class, we were knowing what is Jnana and Ajnana, or Vidya and Avidya. So, if Jnana and Ajnana, the question from the opponent was Tad dharmam iti chet, that Atma dharmam iti chet, na pratyakshatvad. Now the word pratyaksha has to be understood very clearly. The word pratyaksha in what is in Sanskrit is directly perceivable by the instruments of cognition. It can be sensory input or even the mind. Mind means here in this today's lecture and Wednesday's lecture, I made it clear that I'm using the word mind for mind and intellect put together. So there is no differentiation between the two when it is being used in here. So what is pratyaksha means what we perceive through the eyes, ears, nose, etc. are directly perceivable by those instruments. Eyes can see only the light, etc. Same way, mind can perceive the emotions, feelings and thoughts. So they are also pratyaksha. So if Vidya and Avidya, Atma Dharma Midi Chet, if it is the Dharma of the Atman, Acharya says no, na pratyakshatvad. Na is a negation of his question and the answer is pratyakshatvad because they are pratyaksham. Means they are perceived what? Vidya and Avidya. That is Jnana and Ajnana. That is knowledge and ignorance. Why do we have to understand this aspect is that there is a lot of misconception regarding Atma-jnana. That is why the opponent asked us the question, if Jnana and Ajnana, is it not Atma-dharma? Because in the earlier textbooks and explanations, we were told that Atma is a Jnana Swarupa. The nature of Atma is knowledge, awareness, consciousness. And in that, when mind appears, the mind is also known as mind by the process from the Atma. That was just to make us understand that we are not the mind, but actually that is not the process. So the question is, what about the knowing that the mind appears in awareness can be asked. Is it that mind arises in awareness and the waker is identifying that awareness in the awareness, the mind coming up? These type of questions is what need to be understood very clearly. Those explanations were given at that time to help us remove our identification with the mind as we are the mind or we are related to the body-mind complex. So they said that when we observe our mind, observe our thoughts, this is being done by the Atma or the Self, which is a Sakshi or a witness. See that these terms are confusing when we understand it with partial knowledge. Initially it will help because the purpose of those words are being coined and used by the masters or the teachers or the rishis or the acharyas are for the purpose which is different from giving the knowledge of Atma or Atma-jnana. The purpose of using those words and explanations which was given, that observing the mind, observing everything other than the self as neti process, all those things were being told for the purpose of detachment or de-identification or disassociation of our nature with these objects. We got into a trap of identification with the body-mind complex, and therefore we started thinking we are the body-mind complex. This is what is called viparya or misconception. So this misconception has to be removed along with the ignorance and the doubts which we can have in the process of knowing. Listen carefully. When I'm saying this, it is for all of us to give attention to the present explanation and refusal or refutal of rebuttal of the earlier stance by the Advaiti's own standard. Because now we are reaching the pinnacle of Advaita, where we are about to push back the pole vault and cross over the bar for a proper understanding. So the word term Sakshi and observing the mind or the thoughts or objects, all those things are none other than by our own mind. earlier thought is observed by a subsequent thought in the mind, and because that thought has moved from an active thought to a memory thought. So it is easy for us to observe the previous thought by a current thought. So we were told to observe this as a Sakshi, means we thought that we are become the Atman and we are observing the thoughts. We have not become the Atman. We are always Atman only. What we became is associating with the current thoughts to observe the very previous thought which is running in our mind. And then we became the Sakshi in the current thought process, observing the previous thought. The Atma is not a Sakshi. Because why? Because there is nothing other than Atma in reality. So how can Atma be a Sakshi? The validity of the statement which I am making is because there is only one, na dvitiyam asti, advaitam. In that state, there cannot be two, a Sakshi and the thoughts and the objects and the subject and the object. The feeling of subject in our mind is the association with the current thought, and we have not got out of our misconception or the Taittareeya that we are not the body-mind complex. We thought that by becoming the Sakshi or the witness, we have become aware of Atman. But that was not the case. Our Viparya or misconception changed from a notion which we were carrying till then to an active mind, and we needed to remind ourselves that to be the Sakshi all the time. That means to be associated with the current thought or the current thought process with which we can observe everything else as objects. But that also is part of the avidya or ignorance. That is why, if you remember, in my earlier classes I said even the avidya, even the Sakshi will be dropped. I don't know how many of you were able to understand or absorb that at that time. The method is like this. We are always in the process of utilizing our mind as long as we are in the waking. What we call it as waker's mind. This waker's mind will be always present as long as we are in waking. And we have no escape from it. All our activities, including the identification of the individuality ego, to the functions of the mind as emotions, feelings and thoughts, and the world of objects as objects, the subject-object dichotomy, all are part of this waking mind. I'm purposefully going slow so that you get enough time to think about it. So, then what is the role of the Upanishad, the teachers, the Rishi, and the statements of the Upanishad? Are they not contradicting themselves? If you go by the literal meaning, they are contradicting. That is why the first class of this Upanishad, I purposefully took on the subject of intended meaning and the literal meaning as the two aspects of understanding Taittareeya Upanishad. The statements from the Upanishads, when it says that yatrana anyat pasyati, anyat shrunoti, anyat vijanati, where nothing other is known, nothing other is heard, nothing other is heard, anyat pasyati, other is seen. All these things. The otherness is what it is negating, not the objects, not the vision, nor the knowing. When the otherness is not there, can you see yourself when you are all alone? There is no mirror, no reflecting media, nothing is there. Can you see yourself? Not as a physical body, but as an entity. Physical body, you may say, I can see my leg, I can see my hand, etc. That is not what I am intending to ask you. You have no way of knowing yourself. How will you know yourself? Because knowing is a process of the mind. And when there is no otherness, what can the mind know anything as a subject? Mind can know only when there is an objectification. So, when the Upanishad said that, yatra nanyat pasyati anyat shrunoti anyat vijanati, or if we take that Chandogya Upanishad Mahavakya, tat satyam tat tvamadi shvetaketu, tad tvam asi, that are you. Now there is that and you, which is being negated by the word is. The otherness is denied in that process by merging that and you as one. But we thought that it is saying that Upanishad is telling that we are Atma. Because why we thought it that way? Because for us, Atma is separate and I am separate. So we thought that Tattvamasi, the Mahavakya, is making us to understand that I am Atman. And therefore, Aham Brahmasmi is the Anubhava Vakya. I am Brahman is the experiential statement. So I am that, and that is Brahman. So I am the subject, and that being Brahman, now I have the knowledge of Brahman. So Aham Brahmasmi. So I have the knowledge of Brahman. This is how the literal meaning works. But when we understand the intended meaning of the word Tattvamasi, when this and that, or I and that, or you and that, is bracketed by the same verb of isness, you are that. So you and that cannot be two separate. That is the intended meaning of the Tattvamasi. So the otherness is negated. Therefore, there is no you and that separate. There is only one. And when that oneness happens, when that oneness or unity happens, or the negation of the anya pashyati or anya shrunoti, anyat vijanati, that is otherness is negated. What is the experience is given by this term Aham Brahmasmi. No, I am Brahman. Either Brahman is something there, I am Brahman because like I am the father. The father is a status. I become the individual, that whoever he is. And he becoming a father is a status which is being attributed to the same person. But without the son, he is not father, or without a child, he is not a father. Therefore, there has to be something separate from it to become a father. Same way we thought that the Brahman has to be there separate from us and I will become Brahman, or my knowledge of Upanishad and that listening to the master will make me realize Brahman, which I am not now. So we had this literal meaning guiding us, thinking that the Atma Jnana or Brahma Jnana will be the end result of spiritual journey. But when you look at with Tattvamasi, which I explained now, when the otherness is removed, the otherness has to be removed even from Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. He is removing the otherness, that I and Brahman are not different. I don't become Brahman. I am always Brahman. The I is dissolved or negated. It is not like that I is there now, that dissolves in Brahman like the sugar dissolving in water or milk. No. The feeling that I am separate vanishes. There is no foundation for that separated individuality to exist when I know what is Brahman. I will not be able to have my independent individuality and separate Brahman, which is everything in the world. That separation is again creation of the mind. So different types of ajnana with samshaya viparya or ignorance, doubt and misconceptions are there in our life. All these need to be negated in the path by inquiry into the intended meaning of the teaching. For that, if you have to go through the Upanishads once again, please do that. Starting from what Ishavasya Upanishad, Ishavasyamidam Sarvam. From that onwards to the Brihadaranya Upanishad, which will be finished in the last. All that has to be revisited multiple times. Because the viparya, the misconception of the waker will always remain as long as the body or the experiencing element of the waking, which is the mind, is in operation. That is why the Deha Tadatmyam, or the identification with the body, the individuality, the body means not the physical body alone, the mind-body complex. That is the biggest misconception which we are having. We are not able to get out. You may say that I am able to observe my body. I am able to see it as separate. But even when we are making that statement, I am able to see my body as separate, the I is not established in the I-lessness state, which is the Atman or Brahman. Even when that statements are being made, I am able to observe my body, I am able to see my body's changes, all those statements are, I am not saying it is wrong. It is not at all wrong. They are all right in their own sense. But hidden in those statements, there is a biggest trap for all of us. The identification with the I. And that cannot be eradicated unless even that is negated by the knowledge of Brahman, again, which is happening in the mind. Because the knowledge of Atman or Brahman is also of the waker. The waker is the one which has the problem of identification. So, where the identification is happening, we have to work at that level. From a different level, this cannot be eradicated. This aspect of removal of the misconception about the individuality, what we call it in Sanskrit as the aham pratyaya, has to be done by the mind itself. A mind in which, when the intended meanings of the Upanishad shine, that knowledge is like a light which will dispel the darkness. The darkness of even the last viparya, or the misidentification of the individuality or the ego. So the knowledge which is happening from the intended meanings of the Upanishad is also similar to the ignorance which we were knowing earlier as I don't know mathematics, or I don't know arts, or I don't know about astronomy or astrology. Like all that is known only to you. Your ignorance is not known to me, not known to your teacher, not to your spouse or children or anybody for that. You have only knowledge about your ignorance. Same way, this knowledge also will know by you only. But the advantage of this knowledge of Atman or Brahman, even though it is not objectifiable as an object, because it is about yourself. The subject can never be an object. There is no subject-object bifurcation after that knowledge. That dissolving or denial of the existence of the bifurcation is the final step for the waker to free that as his freedom. There was a question to me when I said that when we are freed from Ajnana, Samshaya, Viparya, the three: ignorance, doubt and misconceptions, when it is removed, that is the emancipation or the spiritual goal or the spiritual endeavor. So the question came to me by the back channel, through the back channel, that, so do you mean to say there is no Jivan Mukta? Or what is Jivan Mukti? Jivan Mukti, the term is that liberated while living. Obviously, while living means we are in Jagrat, we are in the waking. And liberated in the waking, when we are endowed with mind, how can we be called we are liberated? So don't you say, are you not saying that there is no Jivan Mukta? This was a question which was asked to me. It is, the question itself has the answer in it. It is in the mind where the doubt, the ignorance and the misconceptions are residing. When the light of knowledge comes, when all the three gets eradicated, what is there to clutch the person with any of the doubt or misconception? Ajnana has now got replaced, the ignorance which has got replaced with the jnana. Earlier, due to the ignorance, we were having doubt, and that doubt were giving rise to misconception. Now that ignorance has been replaced by the intended meaning of the Upanishad. Therefore, the intended meaning, when it has become your own by the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, that is the time when your doubts will go vanishing. And when your doubts are not there, the chance of misconception that you are still the body can have no locus standi, because that is a product of doubt. I cannot be Atman, I am the body. That aspect is gone. How did the intended meaning work you to become free from the problem of the three? What did the Upanishad say? That the experiences of the waker, including the knowledge and the ignorance, are at the mental level, and they will be mutually opposing each other. Therefore, the ignorance gets negated. After the ignorance is gone, there cannot be any doubt, because the knowledge is the one which is shining. In the light of knowledge, there cannot be any doubt. And in the absence of doubt, you are conviction. Your conviction takes over what your real nature is. Even this statement of mine, there will be running several thoughts in all of your mind that what is that conviction where I will know I am Atman. This is because we are still holding on to the I. We are not able to drop the I-ness, even though we have accepted that there is no doubt I am Atman. But how will I know Atman? That question is again a product of the final doubt. The answer lies in our experiences, because every experience we know it is pratyaksha, directly conceivable or perceivable. Here is a knowledge which is giving rise to our true nature of our entity, what we are. Since it is not perceivable by the sensory organs or the mind as an object, so there is no object which the mind can grasp, and there is no word which can define it. Yet it is a experience direct when we do not have the ignorance, doubt, and the misconception. That experience can only shine when the absolute last of the nail in the coffin type of a statement, when we are not even thinking about the I-ness. The I, or the individuality of our existence, is no more with the I, but with the Atma. But that will not be an experience like what is experienced through the mind. Therefore, it is called aparoksha or anubhuti. It is experienced not as an object, nor as an emotion, nor as a feeling, nor as a thought, nor even as something which is not having right now. Even when we are not having the right knowledge, even when we are having doubt, when we are having the misconception, also it is the one which is there. Therefore, we are not able to identify it, because it is covered by the misconception that I am the I-ness or the individuality. When affirmed with the knowledge of that we are Atman, this experience which is there right now with all of us as what we are will be the most immediate, and the absence of anything else. That is why the otherness has to be removed from us. Anything which can cause otherness will camouflage that. So the non-dual nature of our existence or our own being or our own experience will become clear to us only when this happens. This is what the Upanishad is teaching us. This is what the rishis have told us. This is what the masters are teaching us. And this is what is to be done on Shravana Manana Nididhyasana until it becomes your own experience. Any amount of doubt which is coming, you have to analyze it with your own knowledge of Atman. Is this question which is coming up in my mind is of my nature or my ego nature or the individuality nature? You have to keep segregating them. like the onion peels. Keep on removing them. This is the process of neti neti, what it is being told. When we were taught about neti neti, we thought that subject object is what is there. But every doubt or every misconception is part of the object, because we are knowing that is the doubt and the misconception in our mind. Therefore, it is to be negated. It is tough for those who are not very sharp in their intellect and very introvert in nature, because their mind is already with a lot of questions and doubts. Because when I am talking about these statements, they are not thinking or following my words without any preconceived notion. So the pre-verification to your memory knowledge bank will make you miss out the thread or the intended meaning. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita that Agriya Buddhya, to the sharp mind, this is available. The sharpness of the mind is where there is ekatanata, or one single pointedness. It is not a meditation. It is an experience, an objectless experience. And the last object to be thrown out of the window is the individuality or the ego. The ego means not the ahankara, but even the aham pratyaya. When we do that, we will know nothing more is required. That completeness with which we enjoy or become satisfied with everything, there is nothing more to be achieved. Yatnyatva sarvamidam vijnadam bhavati. That attitude or that nature, when I'm saying attitude, again, the question with the doubt can come in your mind. So let me not put in the word attitude. That nature of our being is what is called the ananda or the bliss. Not the sukha or the happiness which we are familiar with, objectified happinesses, where there is an object for giving me the happiness. But here is that happiness or the bliss of being objectless. And when there is no otherness, the absence of otherness is the infinity or the ananta. And this is very nature is the only knowledge with which we are able to know who we are, our true nature. Therefore, it is knowledge, jnanam. And never can we deny that when we know that the Jagrat Swapna Sushupti becomes no more Jagrat Swapna Sushupti in the transactional world or Vyavahara Rupa, where that he said, Debyo Vilakshana Sakshi Chinmatroham Sadashivam. As a Sakshi also we are not there, because there is only one. Therefore, it doesn't go through any modification or any change. Tat Satyam. Tat Satyam Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. When we are able to do this analysis and negate, we have to bring in our waking, dream and deep sleep for the clarity of understanding. As long as the waking is there, the waking mind will be in function. But when you have the knowledge, the waking mind is no more a mind which we are familiar with now, but it is a mind which is called the Amani Bhava. It is no more a mind of the waker, but it is a mind of the Atma. Right now also it is the mind of the Atma, but it has identified with the waker, so we all have become the individuals. But when it is the mind of the Atma, that is why it is called the Sthita Prajna or Tasya Prajna Pratishtitaha. The Prajna, not the Jnanam. That time what experienced in the mind is the Prajna, not the Jnanam, where the Jnanam and Ajnanam can coexist. But here is a statement of the Prajna which we studied in detail in the Taittareeya Upanishad. Prajnanam Brahma. That Prajna negates all other ignorances which we have in the mind. Therefore, the Sthita Prajna becomes a man of equipoise in the world of living. Even though he is in a waking, he is no more identified himself with the mind of the waker, but his mind is that of a Prajna, the Prajnanam Brahma. He says he remains in that knowledge of Prajnana, which is Brahma Jnana. And he will continue to have the dream, which is a phenomena which he is using, or the nature of the waker to dream. Whether you call it as a daydream or a sleeping dream, both are identical. We are making the difference. The waker is making the difference, that saying, I am daydreaming, that was my sleeping dream. But in reality, there is no difference between the two. You can be in a dream world even while you are awake. We are bringing the day and night based on the sun. And in sun, there is no day and night. Same way, na paramartado vidyamane. That statement of Acharya, in the paramartha, in the absolute, which is neither the sleeping, nor the waking, nor the dreaming. In the paramartha, this dream and waking has equal value. And deep sleep, which we are saying, is not a deep sleep, that is the paramartha avastha. Sa sarvajnaha, sa sarveshwaraha. In the Mandukya Karika, we studied that. Even though we call it as prajna, but the definition given was sa sarvajnaha, sarveshwara. Because there is sarvam means one, when there is nothing, when he is becoming sarvam, when he is becoming all, or all is dissolved in him, there is no otherness in that. So the statement of the Mandukya Karika also should come that in our mind right now. So the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti will appear to continue to have, the Jagrat will not have the dream will not have the waking, and when the dream and waking is not there, we are in our own Paramartha Avastha. It is not deep sleep, like the waker is calling it as a deep sleep. That is why in the Chandogya Upanishad we decided that, we discussed that. Sadi Sambadhya na viduhu, Sadi Sambadhyamahe. Having become one with the Sat, We never knew that we have become one with the Sat. Because to know we are going to become one with the Sat, we need the mind. That is why the knowledge is required in the waking. But in the deep sleep or in the Paramartha Avastha, the mind is not there, but you cannot deny your own existence. Otherwise, you should say, I didn't have such an experience at all. Or I did not exist. Or there is no deep sleep which is happening. Or that it is after waking, dream, and immediately after dream, again waking and dream, only waking and dream. But that is not the case. So to conclude, we have to understand that even the knowledge and ignorance is like the Nama Rupa of the Jagat in the operational mind of the waker. That will get replaced by the Paramartha Jnana, and that is continue to operate as a waker, but not with the waker's mind which you are familiar with, but with the knowledge of that Prajnanam Brahma, or that everything is it. That is where the Sarvatma Bhava will come. And this is the experience of the Jivan Mukta or a Jnani. And he has no difference between himself and the Ajnani. He doesn't see them as different. Yet, he is explaining his stand from the intended meaning of the rishis, or the rishis did that for those who listened to them directly from them when that time. And today we are listening it through the masters who handed over to us as a tradition, this knowledge. And we are blessed by that knowledge. And when we also understand the intended knowledge, intended meaning of these words of the Upanishad, it is our own experience also. And each one of us will be freed from our association with the mind of the waker. And that with that, the problems of the waker with the association of the mind which is in ignorance, thinking that I am this, I am that, I am old, young, fat, lean, old, sick, healthy, all those notions which is of the body is thinking that I am that, will be replaced with I am Satchidananda Brahman. I am not what I was thinking that I am. That is what is called the liberation, emancipation, mukti, moksha, jivan mukti, and all those terms which are there. But this waking will continue to all of us. That is why the teacher is there, the student is there, the rishi is there, we are there. Everything is continuing because this is the way in which we will come to know about the reality, which we are, yet we do not know that. Only the method is to know this when we are in the clutches of either doubt or misconception or ajnana, samshaya viparya. The last of the viparya, which will be dropped by the body, is that I am having a body at all. The physical body need not be dropped. That is why the Jivan Mukta is there. But the physical body, when it is dropped, doesn't mean that this Ajnana Samshaya Viparya of the mind will go, because the mind continues. We are not there coming back to the same thing for the mind to be continuing. But we feel that the mind is continuing. that is also the story of the waker. In reality, there is no birth, there is no death, there is no body. That is why that Nirvana Shatakam is more important at this juncture for one who knows the truth. Na bandar, na mukti, na mata, na pita, na gurur, naiva shishya, chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. That Nirvana Shatakam is literally a statement by the Jivan Mukta. I hope this has got cleared now in this class. If you want, please do come up and ask your doubts. Any doubt is welcome, but don't go with the doubts in your mind. Don't be shy to ask questions. Please do come up. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhidamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavada.
Thank you, Bindaji. To even say thank you is so much lesser than what I would want to say that I was hesitant to even say that. Your generosity with anyone who approaches you is unique and has entirely, as I've said before, changed the story of Artemisia. So I just need to thank you for that. And I'm very glad that you were very encouraging to people to come up and speak with you. Anyone's welcome. Anyone is welcome to come up and speak about what was spoken today with Bindaji in whatever way they're able to. Let's see. I just want to make sure hand raising is open. Chat will be open. Please make use of this time. And I also wanted to, while we wait to see who would like to come up, for myself, when there's a class like today, really, to be careful and not think in any way that there's something useful in hurrying on to the next teaching or the next class, unless our point is that we want to learn the Upanishads and we want to learn certain things. But the essence of what we're after for on a path like this is it's entirely here. And I often, when I listen to the recordings, Bindaji, I listen sentence by sentence and really ask, how could that be? What is being said here? How can I reflect on this? I don't think you could have done a better job. Would anybody like to come up who has any need to discuss this?
Namaste, Srini.
Namaste, Bindaji. I think I just wanted to say a big thank you. I think you took so much time and explained it in detail. I think today's session was very nice. And yeah, I think like you said, it has both, it looks like a paradox. So I think we have to carefully sift through it and yeah, understand the intended meaning. So yeah, I think questions, it's difficult to ask questions. I think after a session like this, I think we go into a lot of introspective mode kind of thing. So I just wanted to thank you very much for taking out the time, and yeah, especially the pace at which you're going is really helpful. And yeah, thank you, Bindaji.
Thank you, Srini. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. Bindoji, Artemisia, Prasad, Prakash, and Srini. So I'm not certain about my question, but it has to do something with feeling a fluidity and permeability between dream and waking states. And I'm not even sure I know enough to ask the correct question, but I just kind of feel like I'm in there with the Imprajanika asking, is this real or is this real? And it's and it's a beautiful exploration. And the good news is it's not too disorienting, but I continue in that. And I just would love for you to speak about the permeability, perhaps, between dream and waking and deep sleep states, and how we can ride that river and ride that flow and navigate them more elegantly. Thank you.
Well, Jesse, the permeability, as you rightly said, is very evident between waking and dream. But where we find it difficult is to connect it with our deep sleep. We have no access to deep sleep. So the permeability is not seen, even though the permeability is the substratum of the deep sleep which is present in the dream and the waking. Because it has no way to be defined, explained, or even conceived or projected. No words, neither the mind nor the words function at that level. So to say that we have a permeability of that is like the blankness of a canvas before the painting comes up. But the canvas get covered and the painting is only what we are experiencing. Same way, the dream and the waking becomes vivid and the permeability between those two are clear because we carry waking into our dream and project furthermore, but we know they are not real when we come back to waking and say that I experienced my, ancestors or my areas where I not even visited but only heard about it. Things like that, there is a connection between the waking and the dream. But what is the connection between the deep sleep to the waker or the dreamer is very difficult for us to understand because that is the place where we have no access for the waker or the dreamer to say that even it is even present in the waking and the dream. So we have to depend upon the teachers who have passed on this information that is the reality on which the waking and the dream appears to come up, and then we forget who we are. The canvas is forgotten and the painting becomes a reality. That is the feeling which we have between the deep sleep and the waking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I can accept that. And I guess my question becomes more than between the waking reality and the dreaming reality and the permeability between those two. And I find that when I ask inner teacher for teaching or messages, that I'm sitting at the feet of masters that I can hear, but I can also ask questions to. And that allows me a flexibility to kind of move through things. So I guess I'm really not talking about the deep sleep state, but rather talking about the undulation and permeability between waking and dream states and the ability to bring wisdom into an integrated fashion, utilizing both of those states. So I'm keenly interested in this, and I'm so glad that you're speaking to this in your teachings. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Ganesh Prasad.
Namaste, Bindoji.
Namaste.
Today class is very deeply moving, and as you said, it is very difficult to have that hair split analysis and also to have that sharpness of the intellect to simultaneously introspect and negate things with the Neti equation. It's very, very difficult. But the only consoling part is that you said that only Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana is to be continuous till we experience the fact that all these three states merge into a kind of self-effulgence, and which could delete or which could erase even the waker's story of the deep sleep. And you mentioned it as Amani Sthiti, and that was fantastic. And yet it is very deep, Bindoji. We should be listening. Perhaps that's why God has opened our ears permanently till our death. From the point of our birth, we should keep listening. And thank you for this great class. I can only say that. And it has humbled me so much that words cannot express anything. Still carrying the trust and hope that we may feel the Amani Sthiti one day or the other with this conviction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ganesh. You will be there.
Before we go on to Rahul, just for everyone to remind that we have a little bit of time and that we've been following the classes very closely, especially the last 2 or 3. And this is really a especially important point where we could actually recognize what's being pointed to. So as much as we can stick to that and ask our questions that anyone else, I see Rajinder also came up, please do raise your hand and take advantage of the opportunity. And welcome, Rahul. Go ahead.
Thank you. Namaste, Bindoji.
Namaste, Rahul.
Bindoji, my question is regarding the dreams. Like, whenever I try to analyze the dream, my dreams are mostly either the things which I have strong feelings, or the things which I'm afraid of. So my related question is, for a Jivan Mukta who has lost all his vasanas in some sense, would Jivan Mukta get dreams? Because it looks very similar to a next life. So if if it's guaranteed that he will not have a next life, does it mean that he or she will not even have any dreams as well?
No, he will continue to have the, waking and dream as normal as everyone else. But he knows the reality of the waking and the dream. That is the difference between us and him. We think that we are having the waking and dream, which are real. Whereas for him, they are mere appearances in himself, in his awareness. He doesn't see them as separate reality or independently existing. They are nothing but the nature of his own knowledge or the consciousness. The consciousness which is not of the mind, which is a waker's mind. But the consciousness which we are talking about is with the capital C. That is the substratum for all the three. But the non-objectifiable or with the objectless state and the state of gross objects and subtle objects. That is what is called the waking or the dream. So the dream is basically in the same mind of the waker, but he is having a different level of reality there. Therefore, it is felt as, it is called subtle from the point of view of the dream, and gross because in the waker's experience, everything is solid and gross. So this gross and subtle difference is only to differentiate between the waking and the dream. But the dream, in the dream, everything is gross for him also, or her. So, but there will be definitely the part of the mind which Jesse was talking about, the permeability of the waking into the dream is definitely there. That is why, as you rightly said, the fear or the thing from the waking can come into the dream as what we call it as unfulfilled waker, and impossible for the waker to satisfy himself. He gets his satisfaction through the projections of the dream. That is why the dream is called as a projection by the waker to satisfy his incapable desires or fears. That is what is dream.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Binduji.
Thanks, Rahul. Namaste, Rajendra.
Hello, namaste to everyone. Thank you, Binduji. It's very interesting, this idea around the paradox and the idea around the mirror to see oneself. And while some people might say, "Oh, we aspire to feel something much more, let's say, more divine," and yet that aspiration itself is it an illusion or the delusion if we are already that? So there's this kind of a loop that's happening. I guess it allows us to self-reflect, yeah. So thank you very much for that. I don't have a specific question beyond.
Thank you, Rajendra. Karin, you have any doubt? Jay, Revati.
Namaste, Binduji.
Namaste, Revati.
Thank you, Binduji, for the beautiful, enlightening session, Binduji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Revati. Any question?
Yes, Binduji. My question is about last class. I'm asking my understanding is correct or not. Like dharma, the Upanishad is saying the knower has no dharma because the vidya and avidya both are in. He will know both in antakarana, but the both have the dharma, but he has no dharma of vidya and avidya. Otherwise, he will become the vidya. Is that right, Binduji?
Yep. Right. See, that is why it is called that the Swarupa, there is no dharma. That is why we are not able to know anything about the deep sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So jnana and ajnana, or the knowledge and the ignorance, is in the mind, which is mind is operational only in the waking and the dream. So that is the place where the knowledge and ignorance are playing. The dharma of these two. Ganesh Prasad, mute. Can you mute your? So that is the place where we have to understand that the dharma is only for in the point of view of the mind, and in the point of view of the self, there is no what you call these dharmas, which is from the point of view of knowledge and ignorance.
Yes. Yes, Vinod. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Revati. Yes, Karim.
Namaste, Binderji. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Thank you for today's session. That was absolutely very, very clear, and you've answered all the questions and all what you could think of. Might be confusing. So I just wanted to thank you for that. It was a beautiful, beautiful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Karim. I was asking the doubts myself, what can the doubts come? And developing the thought process that,
Yes,
what
I
are the
know that.
possible doubts that can come on each one of your mind, and that is way in which I was looking into it. So then I am asking the question myself as well as answering myself.
Yes, it was very clear to see that you went through that whole process, what can be asked and what the depth of it. It was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Karan. Namaste, Tara.
Namaste, Binduji. Binduji, do the quality of dreams or the nature of the dreams, are they of any indication? I mean, should we take that as, I don't know, I mean, are they... the quality of the dreams, if you're being shown something repeatedly, continuously, and is that, like, does that have any meaning?
No.
No. Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It is just like the waking and the dream. Both are having no relevance at all, because they are all phenomena which is happening with the mind. And the mind is where the misconceptions and ignorance are resident. So it is that which is the reason why you are having the experiences of the waking as individuality, and that individuality's experiences as the waker and the dreamer has no reality, because they are all imagination in the avidya kalpitatvad. That word used in the commentary by Shankara is that it is due to the imagination, due to ignorance. Any doubt further?
No, so I think, no, that is useful. That was very helpful. Thank you. Imagination, it's almost like letting go of the tree, Binduji. How do I, like, it's there.
What?
Like, how do I let go of that? Like, it's...
Are you getting anything up by holding on to it?
I mean, I feel great. I feel really, really great. I mean,
Is it not a relative term? Great and lower, less
no,
great.
It's like, it's like holding on. By holding on, it's almost like hugging a tree. I mean, I'm holding on to it so intensely that it is shaping everything around me. My experience in this, like that.
It will shape your everything as long as the waker is concerned. No doubt about it. But Is it a reality for you?
It
Has
certainly
it
seems
gone?
like it certainly seems
Has
like
it not? Has it not
slowly.
undergone changes every time?
Yes, but I remain.
So who are you? Then when the knowledge of that happens, then this greatness and the relativeness of the mind will have a different valuation. So we are now holding on to that greatness because we don't not know the value of the reality of our true nature. So the world looks weird. This is what exactly happened in the earlier part of the Vedas or the Mimamsaka. They thought the Surga is real, then the karmas are real, and they kept on doing it. But having done again and again, when they knew that it is not taking them anywhere, but it is like the worm in the pool. They kept on going around and again and again. That is the time when they said, Nastya krita krutena. So then they moved on to find out that what is the reality behind all these things. Shashank?
Just one moment before you go ahead, Shashank. We are near the end, and I want to ensure that the two people who are left can really go ahead and take the time that they need to and want to. So hand raising is off, and we'll go until those two people are finished. But just a reminder that we do have more broad Advaita Q&A at Sunday at the same time, 8:30 p.m. IST. And you can certainly bring follow-up questions from today to that session, because I think there won't really be an end to the relevance of today's specific class. So thank you, everybody, and hopefully you'll stay and benefit from the remaining questions and listen to the last two classes replay at a very minimum to understand what's being shared right now is really the completeness of Advaita. Thank you. Shashank, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Pranam Binduji. Thank you to sharing this valuable and great understanding with us. I want to ask just a question right now came in my mind, that whether the practice of Yoga Nidra is helpful to attain that awareness, self-awareness more deeply, because as Upanishad says that Sushupti, then the beyond stage. So Sushupti is near to that. Just only one difference there between Sushupti and final stage Turiya or Samadhi, that Sushupti is sleeping Samadhi and Samadhi is like aware Sushupti. So is the practice of that Yoga Nidra or wakeful sleep is helpful, which many yogis teach us?
See, the Yoga Marga and Advaita Marga are two different ones. So Yoga Nidra and Yoga are particular practice of yoga part aspect of it. It is more into accepting the path of Sankhya, where the Purusha, Prakriti and the reality of the world, the 24 tattvas, etc., is being used in that one. Whereas Advaita is talking about Atman or Brahman, which is where it is saying that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, everything is nothing but Brahman only. So these are two different paths. So Yoga Nidra path is for those who are following yoga path, and Advaita is for people who are on the Jnana Marga. So these are two different margas.
So, okay, sir. Thank you.
Would Tantra be a part of Yoga Nidra,
No,
Binduji?
Tantra is part of actually not yoga. It is Tantra is part of what you call ritualistic part of it. It's a karma kanda's offshoot.
Binduji, on that topic though, I remember a few months ago, I think Srini asked you a question about, and again, I apologize to everyone for my ignorance about the language, but I believe you were talking about Sparsha Yoga, and you were talking about, with him about the attempt that people make to, before they really understand what's happening. It's this attempt that I'm going to stay aware so I can know my deep sleep. It's a waker thought. That comes to mind though when I hear about, yoga nidra, and, if you could say a little bit more, these attempts do come up in Advaitic students as well, because they want to know, like the idea is, I want to know what that deep sleep is. And these seem like pathways, what was just mentioned in the conversation with Srini, these seem to people to be pathways where maybe they're going to find out something that's very important for Advaita. And so, I think that's why these questions come up. Can you speak about that a little bit?
See, Asparsha Yoga is nothing but pure Advaita. That is that state of being. There, the yoga, the word is not used as an activity or any ritual or a practice, but as a state of being untouched by anything else. Asparsha means untouched. So when the untouched by anything else is that when there is no otherness. That is the state, because the otherness is dissolved. It is what is the Asparsha Yoga. Talking about, that is a pure Advaita Marga. What the deep sleep is a state, even though it is a coined word by the waker, deep sleep in reality is where there is no otherness. So that otherness, as I was explaining in my earlier answer, that becomes the fundamental background where you can, from where the waker and the dreamer aspects are being projected, which as per the Mandukya is Bija Nidra Yuga Pratya. So that Nidra there, the word is not the Yoga Nidra what we are talking about. The Yoga Nidra is, I think Prasad must be able to add on further, is basically from the point of the yoga's part of meditation, and then there is some activity on that. I will not be able to explain much on the Yoga Nidra.
No,
Prasad?
Binduji, it is just, so in the process of attaining samadhi, it is like an intermediate stage. And it is that stage where in Yoga Nidra, like visions are possible from the yogic standpoint, right? So these are all like till you reach samadhi, so just a few stages below samadhi, as you go on practicing, you experience revelations, truths, and visions if you're the chosen deity. And all these are applicable in the realm of meditation, which generally yogis have called it as Yoga Nidra. So in Yoga Nidra, you are practicing meditation, but you're not asleep. But the body looks like it is fully asleep. But the alertness and awareness is there, but the alertness and awareness is associated completely with what we call as a lucid mind or a sattvic mind. So it's a yogic phase. Nothing to do with Jnana Yoga or anything like that. Those are all stages of samadhi. They have, some scriptures have it, not the Upanishads. But I think Mahabharata, they say it's spoken of. And it is not specifically there in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It is a term that has been coined to specify a particular yogic state.
Thank you, Prasad. Shashank, you got your clarity?
Yeah, I'm getting. But I want to ask one additional question in same but in different way to you, Binduji. That is it happens that if we practice mindfulness and like self-awareness in a Vedantic way, then is it happens that our sleep converts in more aware stage?
No. The sleep is sleep. It will continue to remain asleep. Awareness of the mind will make you more aware of your present nature of the mind. That is, you will not be daydreaming, or you will not be verifying with your memories to cross-verify your present experiences with that. On the contrary, you will become, 100% immersed in the present activity or experience. That is what it is. Atmisha,
Thank you so
about
much.
you. Yeah, thank you.
I'm getting.
Atmisha, about your this thing. Did any clarity come for your question, your part of it?
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Shashank. Atmisha, about your this thing, Asparsha Yoga question.
Oh, it wasn't really meant as a question. I was trying to build on what was being said because I think that there's this continual pursuit by many people to try to understand more about deep sleep, and that this was coming from that. So I was just hoping you would
Okay.
say more than you did. So that was perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Atmisha. Mayur?
Namaste, Bindoji.
Namaste,
And
Mayur.
I can't thank you enough for whatever you are doing. I'm really humbled. Uh, uh, there is not as a such question in my mind, but I'm curious about uh, the thing that because maybe for myself, neti thing maybe happened for little time, but I liked the approach of holding on to that I or the feel of I, and mm, while experiencing that subjective I-ness, like where for a glimpse uh, that uh, I mean every time we talk or we feel that I am means like this body and mind, but when the feel of I, that is very subjective, when we subjectively feel that feel, that is a very maybe for a few seconds or something, maybe that happens, and that is really a amazing state. But maybe living that state 24/7 kind of, it might be a nididhyasa to have focus or that sharp intellect on that I-ness, and maybe that I-ness will vanish in that process with like a blink of eye maybe. But having that 24/7, or even it is for few seconds also, it is like a big thing happening that. So is it because of the impurity of mind basically, because the intellect is not sharp enough to laser focus on that location or that feel of highness? So what kind of precautions must be taken? Because because I understand that slowly maybe uh, with the efforts of person whatever he is doing, obviously there are no efforts, but as an awakened person I would feel that it is my effort, so it will increase maybe. But still having nididhyasa like a taila dharavat, that 24/7 to try to focus on that I, and having that feel of I, and then that will cease to exist at some point. So how to take precautions in the life to remove such impurities of mind, or this is the only process where those seeds of impurity will automatically vanish while having this kind of practice of nididhyasa. That's all.
Yeah. The Upanishad says, Avarti Asakrata Upadeshad. Repetition on the words of the Upadesha, or the what has been learned by you during your learning process. That over a period will eradicate the temporariness of that, what you said, the flash, or a flash of a second, whatever maybe term you have used. It is like that. nobody had to remind you that you are Mayur all the 24/7. But you always operate that you are as Mayur, isn't it? This was due to association thinking that you are Mayur and the body, mind, intellect and as an individuality. When that gets replaced with you are the Atman, not the physical body, mind, intellect, is an appearance in my nature, my swabhava. When that happens, like how you are remembering that you are Mayur, you don't have to remember and you function always like Mayur. Same way, you will not be remembering that you are Atma or Brahman all the time, but your actions will be always you are Atman or Brahman. The actions of the waker will not be anymore controlled by the association with the body. That is because when we are not knowing we are Atman, we are associated with the body. But when we know that we are Atman, the association with the body will not happen. Like that, you can never forget you are Mayur. Will the same way, you will never forget you are Atman or Brahman.
Okay. Thank you, Bindoji. Because sometimes it feels like I understand, like the way I feel Mayur all the time. I don't need to remember it, or nobody needs to remind me that. But in this nidhyasa or the practice to locate or to fixing my intellect, mind, whatever it is, to that I-ness and experiencing that glimpse. Uh, I used to get frustrated, like how much time it will take to have that kind of thing, maybe for more longer and longer and longer time or something. I don't care about it much. In fact, I'm now enjoying this process. That process is really amazing, but still, sometimes it feels like, it should happen. But thank you so much, and I really appreciate you. You are the only one person on CH whom I appreciate, and I really uh, feel something for you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mayur. The beauty is that you are that in this very moment also. It is not something you have to achieve. That is the best part of it. So what effort we are doing is only to remove that association with the physical body, mind, intellect. That is what is the effort is for eradication of the Ajnana Samshaya Viparya. You don't have to worry. You can never become an Atma. You are all the time Atma only. Even right this moment also you are that. But the waker mind is the one where the problem is there. That is why the waker's mind need jnana or education or the knowledge. When that knowledge becomes firm and convicted, then the matter is done. That is the time you think, I was what I am. Even right this moment also. Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Svabhava. That is that eternal and liberated, always in a state of bliss. You are that. We are all at that. Everything is that. Thank you, Mayur.
Thank you, Bingoji.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. And especially, thank you, Bindo. I was just thinking, every time there's an event in the waking life, anytime we meet, another person, anytime there's any kind of an appearance, it's a unique opportunity. And the way that you are with us is, extremely valuable and beautiful. And I just want to personally say it's an endless lesson, and it's a beautiful thing. And there's a lot to think about from today. Again, like I said, at least listening to the last 2 classes in full, if you really want to understand something so important that's being conveyed, and then please come to the Sunday room at 8:30 p.m. IST, which is 11 a.m. Eastern this Sunday, and we can continue on whatever Advaitic topics, but we can certainly continue on your reflections on today. If we can reflect enough on these things that have been spoken, I would say we'll absolutely find what we thought we were looking for. And hurrying on to just reading more books and getting more Upanishads under the belt and so forth, well, then we'll have more books and Upanishads in our mind, but that's different than really finding the truth. So thank you for holding our hand, Bindaji. Thank you for everyone who was brave enough and beautiful enough to come up and speak with us. Thank you for everyone who chose to listen. Otherwise, as Bindo says, he wouldn't even be doing these meetings, obviously. This is a real gift of the heart. And as someone said, a lot of time and contemplation and love goes into his creation of these classes that are for us. Thank you for your clarification, Prasad. If you need to add or would like to add something else, Prakash, I assume you would have jumped in, but if you have something, and then Bindo, if you'll close us out, and we'd love to see you all here on Sunday, please join the house if you're not already a member. And for those who are not aware, lastly, there is always an Upanishad class here on Wednesdays and Fridays, 8:30 p.m. IST, and the mantras for the current Upanishad are pinned above. And when you go back to the replay, you can still download that. You don't have to have Dropbox. Just click when it asks if you just want to open it in a browser, and you can still download a PDF that way. And the replays are here and also on Advaita Retold on YouTube, Advaita Retold. Prakash, did you feel the desire to speak?
Yes, I just wanted to add one statement to what you were mentioning about the Sunday class, which is, going through the iterations of Upanishads is extremely vital. But doing that in the presence of a guru is of supreme importance. And I think that's why Sunday classes are so important. So, and as we know, Bindoji is, demonstrated in many ways the vitality of the Upanishads. But his presence and his clarity is something you're not going to find anywhere else till you ask a question. So please come on Sunday. Thank you, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Atmisha. Thank you, Prakash, and thank you, Prasad, for the clarification you gave. Thank you, Srini, Jess, Ganesh Prasad, Rajinder, Karin, Mayur, and Shashank for coming up and asking the questions. Now we have climbed the pinnacle of explanation of what is the Advaita Siddhi, or the achievement of non-dual state. The remaining classes of Taittareeya will be a breeze. We will be going through the rest of the things from next Wednesday onwards. It will be much faster when we will be able to finish off the Taittareeya without much prolonging. Since I had taken enough and more time than normally it would have taken for any Upanishad, I feel that my effort is definitely giving benefit to all of you. And thank you all for being there. Without you, it would not have been possible for me to conduct the classes like this. See you all on Sunday. Hari Om. Good night.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Good night.